YouTube has rolled out some major targeting changes for 2023 that has completely changed the way most people are doing targeting on the platform. So what we're gonna talk about in this video is the new way to do targeting on YouTube after 2023. So what the really big change is, Google has removed keywords, placements, and topic targeting. So as of right now, you can no longer launch a new campaign. We need to know what to do, and that's what we're gonna talk about right now. One quick thing to be on the lookout for is if you have old campaigns that are converting really well, and those are still active, Google has said sometime going into early 2023. So if you've got campaigns running, keep a really close eye on them, because one day you might just find that all of your keywords are magically removed and you are now just targeting nothing. So that's a really important thing to be aware of. Now, what are we doing instead of using keywords, placements, and topics? So the big one that we're using is we're moving to custom segments. And so custom segments gives you the ability to go into Google and make custom audiences based off of keywords. So a lot of your keyword research will still be the same. The question becomes, how do we use that keyword research to create good segments? So if you're in your Google Ads account, when you come here to tools and settings, you can just go to the audience manager, and this is where we actually create the custom audience segments that we want to be targeting. So you can see up here in custom segments, this is where we can create new audience segments. And we've got a couple of options here. So this is the one that we've been using the most to get started with our campaigns right now, is people who search for any of these terms on Google. So this is Google or any other properties. So now instead of just targeting a specific keyword, we can target keywords that people are searching on Google properties. So if you're looking for dating sites, dating, all of that stuff, when you type those in here, it will give you different options to look at what other things people are searching for. Now, the big thing we've been watching here on our end is this audience size and how many impressions this is gonna get weekly. Because we don't wanna have an audience that's too small, and we don't wanna have an audience that's too big. We're looking at what audience size do we want to be targeting. So over here under weekly impressions, kind of what we've been going with, 100 million to 500 million is kind of a good size that we're looking for. Sometimes you find if you put just one keyword, you're gonna get 10 billion to 1 trillion. We think we're probably getting way too big. Now, this is kind of our initial best practices as we're going right now. We're also kind of figuring out what works inside of each account. So sometimes we start with just a few keywords, and then we're testing, are those working, are those not working? And we're going through our audience testing process to figure out what's the right size in each account. Now, two other options you've got here is you could do people who browse certain types of websites. So here you could just drop like competitors' websites or industry websites, and you could target people that go to those sites. And the last one here is actually just specific apps. So you can even just target apps that people would use on the Google Play Store. You can layer these, but what we have found for best practices getting started is we usually just use people who have searched for any of these terms on Google. We've had some success with people who have any of these interest or purchase intentions, but we've done mostly people who are interested in any of these terms on Google is what's working best for us. Because as you can see, when you go to these interests or purchase intentions, these audiences start to get really big. One other little simple trick, best practice that we're using is when we go to name these, one thing that we're doing for ourselves is putting the date in the name. Because what we might find is maybe we've got our dating one that we create today, and maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, we create a similar one, but that's a little bit different, a little bit modified, and we'll have a different date on that one. And that will help us be able to determine which ones are working and when did we create those. So a really important way to make all of this work is we have to brainstorm in the very beginning. What are the keywords and the different topics that our customers are into? What we will do is keep a spreadsheet of what audiences do we want to test, what audiences have we already tested, what audiences are in testing, and what audiences have failed, and what audiences have been successful. And in a spreadsheet, we will just keep a pipeline where those different audiences that we've created are at this time. Now, the other thing that's been working really well for us is in-market and affinity audiences. So these are different audiences that Google creates based on what they know about people and how they behave online. Because again, Google has so much data on everybody. And so what they do is they create audiences for people who are in market for certain things, and they create affinity audiences for things that people are interested in. And inside of your Google Analytics account, it will tell you what the average person is that browse your website. So here in the traditional analytics, you can see that under interest, you can actually see the different types of affinity categories and in-market audiences that people are that browse your website. One really important thing to note here is like you don't have to just do this for all the users on your website. You can create segments. So you could look at the affinity categories and the in-market segments for your highest value customers based on your e-commerce tracking. All of these segments you could look at and figure out what are the in-market and affinity categories that most closely relate to those people. And then that is a really good starting place to go look at targeting online. Now, unfortunately, later this year, we have to move to GA4. So in July 1st, we're only going to be able to use GA4 data going forward. And so they have a very similar report under the reports, user, demographic details. You can get all of this data, and then you can also check this out based on segments, and you can review this based on conversions, leads, events. So this is why it's really important to have the e-commerce and all of that stuff set up to track all of your events, is because over time, you can find out who are the best users on your site. You can figure out what are their in-market and affinity audiences, and you can go target those with Google Ads. So one other place that you can find this is actually inside Google Ads when you are setting up campaigns and you're in the audience section and the audience segments that you're using to to set up your campaigns, you can check out ideas. And a lot of times Google Ads will create audiences for you or give you really good ideas based on all the other data it has about your remarketing list and who's visiting your website and all of that stuff. Google will create a lot of these audiences or come up with different ways to target people. So this is one that we typically use more for expansion when we are getting started. If you want to know exactly how you can get up and running with YouTube ads, so how you can take these targeting options and actually turn these into winning campaigns where you can make money and actually get started running YouTube ads for your business where you are profitable, be sure to check out this video that I put together right here, because in this video, I'm going to show you how to go from the very beginning and what are the most important things you need to focus on to get started having your first 10K months with YouTube ads. So check this video out right here and I will see you over there.